Jedi of the Republic. We do what we have trained our whole lives to do. Trust in the Force. Believe in the path that is set out before us. Stand in defense of all peoples, not just of the Republic, but across the galaxy. We do what any Jedi would when staring into the face of evil. We fight. Mace Windu. The aftermath of the battle on Geonosis saw the Jedi commissioned as officers of the Republic military, with the military rank of Jedi General bestowed to Knights and Masters and the rank of Jedi Commander to Padawans. The Jedi Military Integration Act formalized this and officially made the Jedi Order a part of the Republic military. The Order experienced division in its ranks at the onset of the Clone Wars, with Proset Dibs opposed to the Jedi's involvement in the Clone Wars. Although Mace Windu believed that the Jedi should strive to serve as an example by leading the Republic soldiers on the battlefield, he was affected by the loss of Jedi lives early in the conflict nonetheless. Windu was troubled by the prospect of more Jedi dying as a result of the Order's decision to fight in the Clone Wars, but Yoda counseled his colleague to set aside his doubts and trust in the Force, acknowledging Windu for his wisdom and capable leadership. Following the operation on Hisrich, Windu called on the High Council to grant clemency to Dibs, whose opposition to the war led to his attempt to kill Windu. Despite his personal reservations, Windu's experience on Hisrich reminded him of the Jedi Order's commitment to safeguarding the lives of others. With his newfound resolve, Windu affirmed his belief that the Order had a moral responsibility to defend the citizens of the Republic as well as all beings throughout the galaxy. During the Clone Wars, the Jedi were victorious on battlefronts across the galaxy, including Christophsis, Ryloth, and Umbara. In their capacity as leaders of the Grand Army of the Republic, the Jedi came to be seen as great warriors. Jedi Knight. Anakin Skywalker, for example, was considered by some to be the greatest warrior of the Jedi Order. During the Battle of Christophsis, Clone Sergeant Slick was arrested as a spy for the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The sergeant claimed that he acted in the interests of the clones, whom he viewed as a slave army fighting for the Jedi and the Republic. However, the clone trooper officers who arrested him, Clone Commander CC 2224 Cody and Clone Captain CT 7567 Rex, questioned Slick's motives, noting how he betrayed the Republic for money and that his actions endangered clone lives. Although Slick succeeded in sabotaging much of the Republic's military equipment, Jedi Generals Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker successfully led their battalions, respectively the 212th Attack Battalion and the 501st Legion, to victory over the Separatists on the Christophsian homeworld. The Battle of Ryloth was a coordinated effort by the Republic to liberate the Twi'leks homeworld from Separatist occupation. With the Jedi in command, the clone troopers mainly relied on using blaster rifles and electromagnetic pulse grenades to reduce the level of destruction on Ryloth. Whereas the Separatists used the Twi'leks as living shields to deter a direct Republic attack, the Jedi and their clones were careful to avoid causing civilian casualties. During the final phase of the invasion, General Windu endeavored to take the capital city of Lesu with the support of the Twi'lek resistance led by Cham Syndulla. Setting aside his dislike for politics, Windu used diplomacy to win the freedom fighters' help, convincing the rivals Syndulla and Senator Orn Free Taa to work together in common cause. The combined forces of Jedi, Republic, and Twi'leks captured the capital along with the separatist emir of Ryloth Wat Tambor. The Second Battle of Geonosis occurred after the Geonosian resistance ousted the Republic's occupation force from their world. With the Separatists in control of the Geonosian droid factories once more, The Jedi returned to Geonosis at the head of an invasion force, having deemed Geonosis crucial to their efforts at restoring order to the Republic. The attack was led by Jedi generals Ki-Adi-Mundi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luminara Unduli, and Anakin Skywalker. After the generals' forces converged at the Point Rain staging area, the primary droid foundry was destroyed by Jedi commanders Barriss Offee and Ahsoka Tano. The capture of Archduke Poggle the Lesser subsequently ended separatist control of Geonosis, thereby depriving the Confederacy military of further support against the Republic from Geonosis. Rogue Jedi. I did it because I've come to realize what many people in the Republic have come to realize, that the Jedi are the ones responsible for this war, that we've so lost our way that we have become villains in this conflict, that we are the ones that should be put on trial, all of us. And my attack on the temple was an attack on what the Jedi have become, an army fighting for the dark side, fallen from the light that we once held so dear. This Republic is failing. It's only a matter of time. Barriss Offee admitting to the bombing of the Jedi Temple hangar. By the time of the Alderaan Refugee Conference, Padme Amidala stated that over 100 Jedi had been killed in the war. More Jedi were killed as the war continued. Jedi Master Even Piell died at the Battle of Lola Sayu. During the assault on Vizsla Keep 09, Count Dooku killed Jedi Master Tiplee. In addition to the casualties of war, the Jedi Order lost a few of its members to the dark side of the Force, such as Jedi Master Pong Krell and Padawan Barriss Offee. Krell served in the Clone Wars as a successful Jedi general whose record reflected numerous victories for the Grand Army of the Republic. His command style resulted in high levels of clone trooper casualties. Nevertheless, Krell was an acclaimed war hero by the time of the Battle of Umbara, during which he temporarily assumed command of the 501st Legion after Anakin Skywalker returned to Coruscant at the behest of the Jedi High Council and Chancellor Palpatine. Though originally a Republic loyalist world at the onset of the Clone Wars, Umbara defected to the Separatists in the wake of Senator Medici's assassination. The Republic therefore invaded the Umbaran homeworld, precipitating the Battle of Umbara. By then, Krell had foreseen the rise of a new order in the aftermath of the Clone Wars. Convinced that the Jedi Order would be defeated, Krell secretly turned against both the Order and the Republic. He sought to prove his new loyalties to Count Dooku by undermining the Republic's efforts to retake Umbara. However, Krell's plans ended when the 501st mutinied against the general's command. Krell was taken into custody after killing multiple clones while resisting arrest. Ultimately, the fallen Jedi Master was executed by one of his strongest supporters, Dogma, after admitting his betrayal of the Republic. Barriss Offee believed the Jedi had deviated from their course as peacekeepers and so arranged a bombing at the Jedi Temple, for which framed fellow Padawan Ahsoka Tano. Tano, in turn, left the Jedi Order unable to trust the Council, after turning its back on her during her trial. Eventually, the High Council came to be aware of Dooku's hand in the creation of the clone army, and of the lies and mistrust that surrounded them, both inside the Temple and the Senate. Grandmaster Yoda even foresaw that the Jedi would not win the Clone Wars, just as public support for the Jedi weakened due to their management of the conflict. The Last Stand. In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor. Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? The Senate will decide your fate. Mace Windu and Sheev Palpatine. The war would come to an end in 19 BBY after Sidious betrayed and orchestrated Tyrannus' death in the Battle of Coruscant in order to lure Skywalker to the dark side. The Jedi calculated a decisive Republic victory through the destruction of General Grievous, which was achieved by Obi-Wan Kenobi during the Battle of Utapau. However, Skywalker, whose turmoil clouded his judgment, learned that Palpatine was Sidious. Though he informed Windu of Palpatine's identity, Sidious resisted the Jedi's efforts to arrest him, killing 3 Jedi Masters, Kit Fisto, Argan Kolar, and Sayasi Teen, forcing Windu to duel the Dark Lord alone. Skywalker rushed to Palpatine's office as Windu and the Chancellor fought, arriving moments after the Jedi champion disarmed the Sith Lord. Before Windu could kill Sidious, Skywalker betrayed him by severing his hand, which led to the Jedi Master's death. Believing Sidious had the power to save his secret wife, Padme Amidala, Skywalker betrayed the Jedi and became Sidious's apprentice, and was given the name of Darth Vader, the Purge. A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father. Now the Jedi are all but extinct. Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker, branding Windu's actions as treason, Palpatine declared the Jedi to be enemies of the Republic and sent Vader to oversee the siege of the Jedi Temple. As his new apprentice purged the temple of its inhabitants, including the younglings, Sidious authorized his clone commanders to execute Order 66, thereby activating the biochips that program the clones to see the Jedi as traitors to the Republic. As a result, thousands of Jedi throughout the galaxy were betrayed and executed by their clones, including Ki-Adi-Mundi on Megiddo, Aayla Secura on Felucia, Plo Koon on Cato Neimoidia, Stas Ali on Salukami, Depa Billaba on Kala, and Jaro Tapal above Braca. Out of an estimated number of 10,000 Jedi, just a few survived to see the proclamation of the New Order, marking the inception of the Galactic Empire and the rise of Palpatine as its emperor. Survivors included Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, Caleb Dume, Cal Kestis, Sera Junda and her Padawan Trilla Suduri, Taran Malikos, and at least initially Uvel, Luminara Unduli, Oppo Rancisis, Eth Koth, Coleman Kaj, Jocasta Nu, Kirakan Fila, Selrach Eluos, Kamun Koli, Zubain Ankonori, Kandra, Mususiel, Noosh, Ferren Bar, and possibly Quinlan Voss. During their self-imposed exile, Kenobi and Yoda, along with Senator Bail Organa, hid Vader's newborn children, the Force-sensitive twins Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa, from the Sith, hoping that in time they would become the key to the Jedi Order's future to stop the dark side. Word about the supposed Jedi rebellion and the Order's destruction spread throughout the galactic population, and clone troopers were ordered to hunt down any Jedi survivors. According to Imperial Admiral Ray Sloan, the Jedi that had survived Order 66 made a last stand against a clone trooper charge led personally by the future war veteran and Shadow Council member Hodnar Borum, who was known to hold disdain for the Force, on a mountain fortress on either Madar or Morad. In addition to the Empire's suppression of all information relating to the Jedi, it was considered treasonous to be a Jedi or render assistance to a Jedi. Imperial laws also prohibited the use or study of the Force, resulting in the banning of educational studies concerning the Jedi. As a consequence, instructors who specialized in Jedi history lost their positions, including Sava Corin Pers and Sava Madeline Sun from the University of Barleth. Within 5 years of the Order's destruction, the Jedi were effectively erased from the collective consciousness in the galaxy due to the Great Jedi Purge, which also involved the systematic destruction of their temples and the unceasing extensive hunts carried out by the Inquisitorius. Jedi survivors that were captured were taken to Mustafar for interrogation and execution, as well as the spire on Stygian Prime, wherein the body of Luminara Unduli was preserved to lure out any surviving Jedi. Among the last reservoirs of knowledge of the Order were Antron Bach's vault in an abandoned colony created at Uvel's behest, and Gracchus, the Hutt's private collection on Nar Shaddaa. Safeguarding holocrons, lightsabers, journals, archives, and other artifacts, they partially preserved the teachings of the Fallen Order. The surviving Jedi Nedris Nar and Vanzil Marklar attempted to train new younglings in a secret temple. Dark Times. Fallen Order. With that list of Force sensitives, we could rebuild the Jedi Order and defeat the Empire. Seri Junda to Cal Kestis. For nearly 20 years, the Empire was able to expand without opposition of a disbanded Jedi Order. A few of its former members, however, stayed true to their code of honor and continued to fight the Empire's injustice, albeit in different ways. Though former Padawan Ahsoka Tano had become disillusioned by the Council's actions and no longer identified as a Jedi, she came into contact with Bail Organa from Alderaan, with whom she worked to coordinate the efforts of a rebellion under the code name Fulcrum, 15 years after the fall of the Republic. 5 years after the rise of the Empire and the destruction of the Jedi Order, there was an attempt to bring the Order back. Padawan Cal Kestis, who had been hiding on Bracca since Order 66, was recruited by the former Jedi Knight Seri Junda, who believed that the return of the Jedi Order was the best option to defeat the Empire. To accomplish this, they sought to recover a holocron that had been hidden on the planet Bogano by Jedi Master Eno Cordova. This holocron contained a list of the locations of Force-sensitive children across the galaxy. After scouring ancient ruins for clues left behind by the extinct Zepho civilization, Kestis succeeded in unlocking the vault that contained the holocron, but the artifact was taken by the Second Sister, an Inquisitor who had been Junda's Padawan before the Purge. Junda proclaimed Kestis a Jedi Knight, and together they pursued the Second Sister to the Fortress Inquisitorius on the ocean moon Nur. They succeeded in retrieving the holocron from the Second Sister, who was executed by Darth Vader. The Dark Lord overpowered both Jedi, wounded Kestis for refusing to surrender the holocron, and goaded Junda to embrace the dark side. Ultimately, though, Kestis and Junda managed to escape from Vader with their allies' help. Despite Kestis's commitment to the restoration of the Jedi Order, the young Jedi Knight destroyed the holocron to protect the Force-sensitive younglings, entrusting their fate to the will of the Force. Rediscovery of an abandoned world. Tanalor's a fortress. We should use it for the hidden path. Gather allies. Train. They'd never see us coming. Cal Kestis. Over the 5 years following the holocron's destruction, Kestis has become an extremely important target for the Empire, having attracted the attention of not only the Inquisitorius, but the ISB as well. In 9 BBI, on the planet Kobo, Kestis encountered something from the Jedi's Golden Age. Kestis encountered the Jedi Dagan Gera, who has been preserved in Bacta since the days of the High Republic. Kestis freed the old Jedi and asked for his help in his fight against the Empire. However, Gera fell out with the Jedi Order, who he believed had betrayed him because the Jedi had given up on Tanalor, a hard-to-reach world Dagan had become obsessed with after an attack by the Nihil. Gera fell to the dark side and bled the Kyber crystal from his lightsaber, starting a duel with Kestis afterwards. Dagan escaped with the help of his old ally, the Jedi Ravis, and intended to return to Tanalor and create an army led by Force users trained by himself to fight the Empire. However, due to the clouded view of Gera by the dark side, Kestis opposed his plan. Along with Boda Kuna, Kestis killed Dagan and obtained the compass that would guide them to Tanalorr, a place that Kestis intended to transform into a refuge for those persecuted by the Empire. However, the compass was stolen by Akuna, who was an ISB spy and a survivor of the Jedi Purge. Akuna intended to flee to Tanalorr with his daughter so that they could live free from the Empire forever, which, in his opinion, Kestis's intentions for Tanalorr jeopardized. Kestis followed Akuna to Tanalorr and, along with his ally, the Night Sister Merrin, slew him. Kestis and his friends took in Bode's daughter and held a Jedi funeral for Akuna, Serejunda, and Eno Cordova, who were trying to restore knowledge from the Jedi archives and were killed due to Akuna stealing the compass. With the compass in their possession, Kestis and his allies began to prepare Tanalorr for use in the Hidden Paths operations, rebellion and war. Things are getting worse, just as they did when I was your age, but back then, there were 10,000 Jedi protecting the galaxy. Now, there's just you and me, Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger. 8 years after the end of the Clone Wars, Caleb Dume, who had assumed the identity of Kanan Jarrus, joined forces with the Twi'lek rebel fighter Hera Syndulla. Together, the two established a small rebel cell based on the starship Ghost. 15 years into the Imperial era, a number of inaccurate tales about the Jedi started to appear. For example, the bounty hunter duo Gowski and Fiskal were under the impression that Jedi aged backward were able to fly and had unusually dense bones. About 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, Jarrus took on a Force-sensitive teenager named Ezra Bridger as his apprentice. Jarrus's decision to ignite his lightsaber on Kessel drew the attention of the Grand Inquisitor, whom Vader had tasked with hunting down Jedi and recruiting the children of the Force. Under Jarrus's tutelage, Bridger trained as a Jedi while evading the Grand Inquisitor and other Imperial agents. Bridger completed his Jedi trials at the Lothal Jedi Temple under the guidance of Master Yoda, who also counseled Jarrus to continue training Bridger. At the instigation of Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin, the Grand Inquisitor and Agent Alexander Callis concocted a trap that captured Jarrus. However, Bridger and the other rebels mounted a mission to rescue Jarrus and killed the Grand Inquisitor. In the process, they encountered other members of the rebellion, including the former Padawan Ahsoka Tano, who had become a key rebel leader. Return of the Jedi. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. Luke Skywalker to Darth Sidious. During a mission, they inspired not only the people of Lothal to fight the Empire, but also the early Alliance to finally organize and to bring several rebel cells together, paving the way for the Alliance to restore the Republic. An underground faith known as the Church of the Force emerged in support of the Jedi and their ideals, believing that only their return could restore balance to the Force. In Zero BBI, Obi-Wan Kenobi emerged from his exile on Tatooine, not only to help deliver the plans of the Death Star to the Rebel Alliance, as requested by Rebel leader Princess Leia Organa, but to begin training Luke Skywalker to become a Jedi Knight, in the hopes that Skywalker would be able to defeat both Vader and the Emperor. Through Skywalker, with Kenobi's guidance, the Rebel Alliance achieved a significant victory in the Battle of Yavin, which meant a turning point for the Alliance in the Galactic Civil War, though at the cost of Kenobi, who sacrificed himself to save Skywalker. In 3 ABY, Skywalker received training from Yoda on Dagobah. Hailed as the last of the Jedi, Skywalker was told by Yoda to pass on what he had learned so that the legacy of the Jedi Order could go on before passing. Forced to duel Vader while Sidious watched during the Battle of Endor, Skywalker briefly gave into anger and cut off his father's hand. Satisfied, Sidious betrayed Vader by ordering Luke to take his place on Sidious's side, but Skywalker rejected his anger and proclaimed he would always remain a Jedi, which led to him being tortured by the furious Emperor. In agony, he begged his father to save him, convincing the former Anakin Skywalker to save his son, leading to the redeemed Jedi Knight to destroy his master. By destroying his master and the Sith, Anakin brought balance to the Force for the time being, ultimately fulfilling his role as the Chosen One. While the injuries he sustained in the process of destroying Sidious led to his death shortly after, Anakin made peace with Luke before passing and becoming a Force ghost alongside Yoda and Obi-Wan, who assured him that his son likely had a bright future ahead. After the Battle of Jakku, the Empire officially surrendered to the New Republic by way of the Galactic Concordance, which put strict provisions on the rump state. In the unknown regions, however, fleeing Imperial officers and nobles conspired to rebuild their armies and fleets, culminating in the rise of the Hermetic First Order. In the meantime, Skywalker gained a new ally in an individual named Lor San Tekka, a member of the Church of the Force during the Dark Times, who believed the return of the Jedi was necessary to have balance in the Force, and aided Skywalker in retrieving lost Jedi lore. An Order reborn. Stumbled beginnings. After the Empire fell and the Sith Lords were vanquished, I had great hope for the future of the Jedi. I came to believe that if a single Jedi could help bring balance back to the Force, then perhaps a restored Jedi Order could maintain that peace and prevent the dark side from ever regaining its hold on the galaxy. Luke Skywalker. Following the Battle of Endor, the Alliance General Han Solo and the former Princess of Alderaan, Leia Organa, were married. And after the final defeat of the Empire at Jakku, they had a son named Ben Solo. Ben was Luke Skywalker's nephew, as Organa was his twin sister, a fact Skywalker only learned from the Force spirit of Obi-Wan Kenobi following Yoda's death. Before her wedding, Skywalker had spoken to Organa about training her and affirmed that she did not need to give up her marriage to Solo if she went down the Jedi path. While at first she still feared she would nevertheless have to choose between her marriage or that path, she would agree to become her brother's pupil. On Agen Kloss, Skywalker trained Organa in the ways of the Jedi as his first student. She even constructed her own lightsaber, but after seeing a vision of her son's death as the culmination of her Jedi training, Organa declined to progress further. She then directed her focus to the future of the New Republic. Around 5 years after the Battle of Endor, Skywalker helped rescue Grog, a mysterious child of the same species as Yoda, survivor of the siege of the Jedi Temple, and who had performed great feats in the Force. Skywalker expressed his desire to train the child in the ways of the Force and took Grog in with the approval of the child's protector, the Mandalorian Din Djarin. With Ahsoka Tano helping to oversee the effort, the Jedi Temple of Luke Skywalker was founded as a training center when Skywalker attempted to restore the Jedi Order, with Grog becoming Skywalker's first student. After Tano parted ways with them for the time being, Skywalker gave Grog a choice. He could remain with his new Jedi Order or return to Din Djarin. Grogu chose to return to Djarin, ending his Jedi training and having Skywalker send R2-D2 to pilot Grog to Tatooine to reunite him with Djarin. A new generation. For many years there was balance, and then I saw Ben, my nephew with that mighty Skywalker blood. In my hubris, I thought I could train him. I could pass on my strengths. Han was Han about it, but Leia trusted me with her son. I took him and a dozen students and began a training temple. Luke Skywalker to Rey. Although Skywalker regarded Kenobi and Yoda as the greatest masters in Jedi history, he knew that his training was unorthodox. As a Jedi Master, Skywalker aimed to provide his apprentices with a more traditional approach to the Jedi arts, and as such, his Padawans followed a training regime similar to the one that existed during the Republic era. The new Jedi Order began as a class of Force-sensitive younglings, beginning with Skywalker's nephew, Ben Solo, whom he agreed to train in the ways of the Force at his sister's behest. In many ways, Solo reminded his parents of his grandfather, Darth Vader. Therefore, Organa wanted him to train with his uncle in the hope that he would not turn to the dark side as well. In addition to Solo, Skywalker recruited several other students, including Hennix, Tai, and Voe, during his visits to many worlds over 2 decades. During this time, Solo was trained in lightsaber combat and became skilled with the Jedi weapon. While Solo was still an adolescent, Skywalker traveled with his nephew and Lor San Tekka to the Jedi outpost on Elphrona seeking Jedi artifacts. The trio were accosted by a dark side sect known as the Knights of Ren. Master Skywalker used his Force powers to defeat the Knights. Before leaving, the Knights leader Ren told Solo to contact the Knights should he ever consider exploring the dark side further. By 21 ABI, the new Jedi Order had grown to the point where it already had senior pupils on top of a new class of younglings in training. Around this time, Luke Skywalker experienced visions that distracted him from some of his basic duties at the Academy, leaving some of his senior students to take over for him on these duties. A Twi'lek woman named Enyo served as an instructor on lightsaber combat, running a class of younglings through a series of exercises with training blades. When Skywalker went on a mission with Lor San Tekka that distanced him from his temple, Ben Solo, who had also taken the duties of running training exercises on the younger students, stayed to oversee the Academy. The temple's destruction. I didn't want this. And you did not choose it, Ben. The Jedi did. Skywalker, Ben Solo and Snoke. Solo's family would ultimately learn that he was gradually seduced to the ways of the dark side through the machinations of the First Order's ruler, Supreme Leader Snoke. Organa blamed Snoke as the sole cause of her son's descent into darkness, culminating in the destruction of the Jedi Temple. But Skywalker felt responsible for his nephew's fate. Sensing the dark side's influence within Solo, Skywalker probed his nephew's mind and beheld visions of the Dark Warrior that he was becoming. Skywalker instinctively raised his lightsaber to kill his nephew while he slept, believing Solo would destroy all that he loved. However, he stopped himself from killing his sister's son and was overcome by shame. He then saw that Solo had awoken. He saw fear in the eyes of his young nephew, and in that moment, Skywalker felt he had failed as a Jedi Master. Solo reached for his blade and razed the hut using the Force, collapsing it in on his uncle. As Solo struggled to comprehend the situation and lost control of his emotions, the Jedi Temple was destroyed by a powerful lightning storm, killing most of Skywalker's other students. Shortly later, Hennix, Tai, and Voe returned from an off-world trip. They confronted Ben Solo, who told them that Skywalker had tried to murder him. Skeptical, they tried to detain him, but Solo fled following a brief skirmish and sought Snoke. Hennix, Tai, and Voe resolved to find Solo and investigate what had happened. Meanwhile, Solo sought out Snoke, and the two decided to seek out the Knights of Ren. Skywalker regained consciousness in the rubble of his nephew's hut, too late to prevent Solo's destruction of the Jedi Temple and the deaths of the students inside. Solo had already fled, and Skywalker could only witness his temple still burning alongside his astromech droid R2-D2. Skywalker felt responsible for the ordeal and decided to exile himself, although those closest to him learned that he was also searching for the first Jedi Temple. Skywalker only left traces of his location in a single star map, with the remaining data being present in old Imperial records. Skywalker eventually found the first Jedi temple on the aquatic world of Ahch-To, where he took up refuge and lived in exile as a hermit. Skywalker vowed to never attempt another rebirth of the Jedi Order, and therefore resolved to die as the last Jedi. The Jedi Killer. Now you will be who you are, who you were always meant to be. Darth Sidious to Ben Solo. Traveling to the Jedi outpost on Elphrona, Solo contacted Ren, who told him to find the Knights of Ren on Varnak. However, Hennix, Ty, and Voe caught up with the fugitive Solo. Though Ty preferred to reason with Solo, Voe and Hennix fought him, believing that he had a role in destroying the Jedi Temple and killing their brethren. Solo killed Hennix in self-defense before fleeing to Varnak. However, Ren was still unsatisfied that Solo was worthy to become a Knight of Ren, but took him on a trial run. To test Solo's worthiness for the dark side, the Knights of Ren enlisted his services in obtaining a Force relic called the Mind Splinter from a group of Mimbanese on the Mine Moon. Using Ty's connection to Solo, Ty and Voe tracked him down there. During the ensuing skirmish, Ty tried to reason with Solo, but was murdered by Ren, who deemed him unworthy. Consumed by rage and grief, Solo killed Ren and Voe, embracing the dark side. Taking the path of darkness, Solo became the master of the Knights of Ren, adopting the name Kylo Ren and bleeding his Kyber crystal. Solo turned to the dark side of the Force and became an apprentice of Snoke, joining the First Order and the Knights of Ren in the process and taking on the new identity of Kylo Ren. By the time of the outbreak of the First Order Resistance War, Ren had gained a reputation of a Jedi killer due to Ren's skills with his lightsaber and his role in destroying Skywalker's new Jedi and his hopes of fully restoring the Jedi Order. Ren was determined to live up to the legacy of his grandfather, whom he considered to be Darth Vader instead of Anakin Skywalker. An awakening. If Skywalker returns, the new Jedi will rise. Snoke. As Luke Skywalker's efforts to rebuild the Jedi Order had seemingly failed, the Jedi Master's fabled return became a symbol of hope for those who believed in him and the Jedi. For others, he remained a myth, but he also posed a threat for those who feared his reappearance, such as Supreme Leader Snoke and the First Order, who believed Skywalker's return would also mean the rise of the new Jedi. It was by this time that an awakening occurred within the Force. Snoke and Ren both sensed it. Snoke was certain that as his apprentice grew stronger with the dark side, his counterpart in the light would rise as well. Convinced that it was Skywalker, Snoke directed Ren to seek out and destroy his former master. While Skywalker's location was unknown to the galaxy at large, his old ally, Lor San Tekka, came into possession of a piece of a star map to the first Jedi Temple some 30 years after the Battle of Endor. When the Resistance, a splinter cell of the New Republic Defense Force led by General Leia Organa that opposed the First Order, learned of this, General Organa dispatched Poe Dameron to attempt to retrieve the map from San Tekka's residence on Jakku. The First Order, however, also seeking Skywalker in an effort to destroy the last of the Jedi, likewise learned of San Tekka's findings and attacked Jakku in an effort to retrieve it. An astromech droid named BB-8, with the map in tow, successfully escaped from Jakku with the aid of a Force-sensitive scavenger named Rey and a First Order stormtrooper deserter named Finn, who previously helped Dameron escape the First Order's custody. They met and traveled alongside Han Solo and his Wookiee partner Chewbacca in a journey to return BB-8 to the Resistance. After a devastating attack against the New Republic's capital by the First Order's Starkiller base, the Resistance sought to destroy the First Order superweapon. Once there, Han Solo attempted to turn his son back to the light, but he was killed by Ren instead, who was attempting to fully commit to Snoke and the dark side. Rey subsequently defeated Ren in a lightsaber duel, and Starkiller Base was destroyed, after which the Resistance finally pieced together the map to Skywalker with help from R2-D2. Organa, relieved to finally find her brother, sought to bring him home. She sent Rey, along with Chewbacca and R2-D2, to Archto, where the young girl found Skywalker among the refugee of the first Jedi Temple. There, Rey presented the Jedi Master with his father's lightsaber, which he had lost on Cloud City decades prior, as a symbol of the only hope the galaxy had left in defeating Kylo Ren, Snoke, the First Order, and Knights of Ren by bringing about the return of the Jedi Order, last of the Jedi. The rebellion is reborn today, the war is just beginning, and I will not be the last Jedi. Luke Skywalker. Rey was surprised to find that Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi, instead rejected her plea for help, tossing his father's lightsaber over his shoulder and confining himself within his hut near the first Jedi Temple. Undeterred, in part thanks to her past as a Jakku scavenger, Rey followed Skywalker as he carried on his daily routine, despite Skywalker telling her and Chewbacca that he would not face down the First Order. Skywalker was intrigued by Rey, however, when she felt voices calling her through the Force to an Oneti tree containing the sacred Jedi texts. After sneaking aboard the Millennium Falcon and being shown a hologram of his sister's call for help to Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi decades earlier by R2-D2, however, Skywalker changed his mind and agreed to teach Rey the ways of the Jedi, and why, in his mind, it was time for the Jedi to end. Meanwhile, however, a Force bond had opened up between Rey and Kylo Ren, something that Rey decided not to tell her new master. When Skywalker discovered this, he abruptly ended his training of Rey, telling her to leave. After a brief duel, Skywalker finally confessed to Rey the truth of the night his nephew destroyed his fledgling new Jedi Order. Rey, who had grown sympathetic to Ren's conflict over their shared feelings of abandonment, decided to leave Skywalker in an attempt to redeem Ren in the light side, as Skywalker had done to his father decades earlier. Rey traveled to the Supremacy, where Ren took her before his dark side master, Supreme Leader Snoke. Snoke proceeded to use the Force to tortuously probe Rey's mind, finding Skywalker's location. Snoke vowed to obliterate the last Jedi after dealing with the Resistance. Rey defied Snoke, trying to lash out at him. Deeming her to have the spirit of a true Jedi, he commanded Ren to execute Rey. Instead, however, Ren used his grandfather's lightsaber to bisect the Supreme Leader. Ren and Rey then fought Snoke's elite Praetorian Guard, defeating them. However, Ren did not turn back to the light side as Rey believed. Rather, he usurped his master, fully engrossed in the dark side. Ren offered Rey the chance to rule the galaxy by his side, but instead the two fought over Skywalker's lightsaber, eventually breaking it in half using the Force, knocking both unconscious. After regaining consciousness, Rey escaped the Supremacy, regrouping with Chewbacca and R2-D2 above the Millennium Falcon. They came to the aid of the Resistance during Ren's siege of Crate, as did Luke Skywalker. After reuniting with his sister Organa, Skywalker faced his nephew before the First Order army. However, Skywalker was in fact projecting himself across the galaxy from Archto, buying time for the Resistance's survivors to escape. By the time Ren realized this, it was too late. The remaining survivors of the Resistance, including Poe Dameron, Finn, and Leia Organa, had escaped aboard the Millennium Falcon with Chewbacca and Rey, who Skywalker acknowledged as a Jedi. Skywalker's projection disappeared, and back at the first Jedi Temple, Skywalker, having exerted a great amount of energy, passed away, becoming one with the Force before the twin sons of Arch-To. Rey, meanwhile, had recovered Skywalker's lightsaber and began working with the Resistance on the process of building a rebellion against the First Order, while Skywalker's heroic tale spread across the galaxy, inspiring others as the First Order rose to power. Return of the Sith. I am all the Sith, and I'm all the Jedi. Darth Sidious and Rey. In the year following the Battle of Crate, Rey repaired the Skywalker lightsaber, continued her Jedi training under Luke Skywalker's twin sister, Leia Organa, who had once briefly trained under her brother as a Jedi herself. Meanwhile, Kylo Ren and the First Order cracked down on any worlds that spread the tale of his defeat at the hands of Luke Skywalker. During that time, a cult of loyalists to the extinct Sith, the Sith Eternal, revealed themselves to the galaxy from the unknown regions by broadcasting the voice of the late Emperor Palpatine, the public identity of Darth Sidious, who was thought to be dead since the Battle of Endor. After obtaining a Sith Wayfinder from Mustafar, Ren traveled to Exegol and found that Sidious still lived. The Emperor promised Ren the Sith Eternal's fleet of Ziston-class Star Destroyers, the Final Order, if he killed Rey, the Last Jedi, and the granddaughter of Sidious. After traveling to Pasaana and Kijimi, Rey was confronted by Ren in the Death Star ruins on Kef Bir. Ren, having revealed to Rey her true lineage, attempted to turn her to the dark side. Their duel was interrupted when Ren sensed his mother's death across the galaxy, allowing Rey to wound the Supreme Leader while he was distracted. After healing Ren, Rey stole his TIE Whisperer and returned to the first Jedi Temple on Arch-To to exile herself as her master had, afraid of her powers and her potential for the dark side as a descendant of Darth Sidious. The spirit of Luke Skywalker appeared before Rey to motivate and encourage her, teaching his student one last lesson, that confronting fear was the destiny of all Jedi. Skywalker gave Rey his sister's lightsaber and lifted his old starfighter out of the Arch-To seas with the Force, allowing her to use Ren's Wayfinder to travel to Exegol. Rey charted her path through hyperspace and transmitted the coordinates to the Resistance, allowing them to travel to Exegol as well. The Battle of Exegol was fought between the Resistance and the Sith Eternal. It was during the battle that Rey confronted her grandfather Sidious, who offered her the throne of the Sith and asked her to take her revenge for having her father and mother killed by sacrificing him as part of a ritual, allowing the Sith to reborn and ending the Jedi. However, a redeemed Ben Solo, who had renounced the dark side and shed his identity as Kylo Ren, arrived to help Rey. Solo defeated the Knights of Ren, but he and Rey were caught by the Dark Lord of the Sith, who learned that the two were a prophesied Force dyad. Sidious used their bond to heal himself, drawing on their combined life force to restore his body before tossing Solo into a nearby abyss to take his revenge on the Skywalker family for killing him years earlier at the Battle of Endor. The Sith Lord then unleashed his Force lightning on the Resistance and their citizens' fleet above. However, Rey was able to reach out to the past Jedi. The Jedi Order was gone, but their strength remained. Upon hearing their voices call to her, Rey was strengthened and rose to face her grandfather. Palpatine redirected his Force lightning towards Rey, who defended herself with the lightsabers of her masters. As Sidious boasted that he was all the Sith, Rey responded that she was all the Jedi, and she deflected Sidious's lightning back towards him, causing the Sith Lord to disintegrate and be destroyed at last, preventing the rebirth of the Sith. A massive explosion burst out and erupted, causing the Sith citadel beneath Exegol to collapse and crumble on the Sith Eternal cultists. Rey sacrificed herself to stop the Emperor, and Solo sacrificed his life in turn to resurrect Rey. With his death, the Skywalker bloodline became extinct. Sometime later, Rey buried her mentor's lightsabers at the Lars Moisture Farm on Tatooine, the homeworld of the Skywalkers, and unsheathed her own lightsaber. When a local elderly woman stumbled upon Rey using her lightsaber, she asked the scavenger her name. Seeing the spirits of Luke and Leia in the distance, Rey responded that she was Rey Skywalker. In the aftermath of the First Order Resistance War, the Jedi Order was still in the process of rebuilding itself. Rey eventually gained the status of Jedi Master while fighting to restore galactic peace, but the Order had not yet returned to its former glory. Legacy. Now that they're extinct, the Jedi are romanticized, deified, but if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure, hypocrisy, hubris. That's not true. At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader. And a Jedi who saved him, Luke Skywalker and Rey. After the fall of the Empire, the Jedi Order's memory was rehabilitated and mythologized. The Jedi were romanticized during the New Republic era, becoming deified symbols of a bygone era. Despite the Order's extinction, Supreme Leader Snoke endeavored to eradicate all traces of its past, believing that the Jedi inspired hope in the enemies of the First Order. Luke Skywalker, a legendary Jedi Master, devoted years to rediscovering the Order's history, which he chronicled in the book The Secrets of the Jedi. Although Skywalker held individual Jedi, such as Mace Windu, Yoda, or Qui-Gon Jinn, in high esteem, he became disillusioned by the Order's failure toward the end of its history prior to the rise of the Empire. He faulted the Order for not thwarting the machinations of Darth Sidious, causing the extinction of the Jedi. Skywalker also believed that his old mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, was responsible for his father's transformation into Darth Vader. After his faith in the Jedi was restored by Rey and Yoda, Skywalker's final stand allowed the legend of the Jedi to spread once more, bringing hope to the galaxy as the First Order advanced. Later, to Rey, the spirit of Skywalker admitted that he had been wrong and encouraged her to keep the Jedi way and fight Sidious.